Hey there, welcome back to another video. This time around, it is my epic rant on the 2010 direct-to-video film Born to Raise Hell. Now, before I get around to sharing more of my thoughts on this film, I want to give a special shout out to Daniel for requesting this review. And if there's another film, TV show, or topic that you would like to see me discuss in the future, feel free to donate to my PayPal. The link will be in the video description down below, and I'll try to get to it as soon as I possibly can. Now, Born to Raise Hell is another one of those painfully generic, boring, bad direct-to-video films starring Steven Seagal from the 2010s, where he plays a member of some task force. Instead of it being from the CIA or the FBI or the NRA or the IRS or the UPS or the IBS. I mean, IBS would be fitting because Seagal is full of shit and this film stinks. But no, he's a part of the International Drug Task Force, the IDTF. And you know that because Seagal and his team are wearing vests that have that title on it. And at first, I swear to God, I thought it said IDGAF. And I thought that would have been equally as fitting because I don't give a fuck about Born to Raise Hell or Steven Seagal in general during this period, where he just started packing on the pounds and his performance suffered as a result because he became lazier. He wound up having to have stunt doubles just to do somersaults. He wouldn't even dub his own lines. And it just became increasingly more and more pathetic with each taco supreme or chalupa or a burrito that he shoved down his throat at the Taco Bell drive-thru. So and I call it I also like to call this film Born to Raise Taco Bell because that's basically all that Steven Seagal was probably doing in between takes is raising uh, a Crunch Wrap Supreme to his lips and just shoving it down his gullet. So yeah, Born to Raise Taco Bell is yet another really lame, bad direct-to-video action film from a really awful era of Steven Seagal films. And I will say this, it's not the worst Steven Seagal film that I've seen. That Dishonor probably still goes to Attack Force, but the bar is very low, and this film just barely steps over it. It's directed by Lauro Chartrand, and this guy is laughable. If you look at this guy's filmography, he's got this film, he's got a couple other short films, he's got 2 Lifetime Movie of the Weeks, and then the last film that he shot was a short film, which is a parody of Rambo, starring some chick called Rumbo First P. I'm not making that up. It's on his IMDb. Rumbo. First P. Like, this guy is so pathetic and laughable of a talent as a director that not even the Asylum wanted to touch his ass. And hire him for one of their shitty films. So he had to direct short films like Rumbo First P. So, yeah, the direction in this, it's weak, it's laughably bad. There's a lot of moments where it's just completely, totally inept because of the way the shots are set up. And I don't know what kind of camera he used, but he had no clue when it comes to using the right exposure. Because there's a lot of scenes in this film that look washed out, way too bright, and as a result, the film looks incredibly cheap. And I know that it's a cheap production, but a better director who actually knows what they're doing would light things better, would know how to shoot scenes in ways where the exposure isn't too high, and also find ways to work around the budget. But instead, this looks like a fucking porno half the time because of the way that it's shot. Honestly, I've probably seen pornos that have better production values in this movie. So yeah, the direction sucks. The only time it's at all competent is maybe a couple fight scenes with Seagal, but even those are kind of hampered by ill-advised close-ups and just not very efficient shot selection. I mean, the guy, he knows how to choreograph fights. He was a fight choreographer. I think he worked on Rumble in the Bronx with Jackie Chan, and he was a stunt guy for a long time, and he was a former martial artist. So the guy knows what to do when it comes to fighting, but that doesn't mean he knows how to direct fight scenes. Doesn't mean he knows how to direct shootouts. Doesn't mean he knows how to direct period. Not every fight choreographer is able to turn into a worthwhile director, and Lauro Chartrand is a prime example of this. The film is also written by Steven Seagal, which I find hilarious. Like, I mean, Seagal, you can't even put enough effort into your performance. Why the hell would anyone think that you would be able to put a good enough effort into writing a film is beyond me. But because Steven Seagal is also one of the producers of this piece of shit, he can get away with writing and putting himself on the credits as a screenwriter. And it's not like the writing here was anything that hard or difficult or unique to begin with. He just copied notes and plot lines and aspects from a bunch of other direct-to-video films he already starred in. It's another one of those films where, like I said, he's a member of this secret task force called the International Drug Task Force, and he's in Romania again, and he sets his sights on this jerk off asshole who's going around murdering and raping people and breaking into their houses. And he tries to get this guy who's an employer of this dude to help him, but he's reluctant initially until this asshole winds up killing this gangster drug dealer character's wife and harasses his kid. Then it becomes personal. Then he hires Seagal, or he asks Seagal for help. He gives him uh, information as to where this asshole is. And then it predictably ends with Seagal beating the shit out of this guy, and then the movie is over. Like that. That's the script. It doesn't take that much effort to write something like this. And of course, since it's written by Seagal, his character is the greatest cop ever. You know, he's got no flaws. He doesn't even get a single scratch on him throughout the entire movie. He gets a hot Romanian girl and even gets a sex scene, which is one of the most laughable scenes in the entire movie because it just looks like aggressive cuddling. Like, it doesn't even look like it's a sex scene. Seagal's wearing a fucking hoodie throughout the majority of it, and the girl's naked, but you never see anything in terms of Seagal doing anything other than cuddling her. It's aggressive cuddling. There's no sex. I don't even think he gets to second base. So, yeah, he has this hot girl. Anytime that he comes across someone who's potentially a threat or gets in his face, he makes short work of them really quickly. He's got a team of agents, but there's no reason to give a shit about any of them. There's this one guy who you find out that he's going to be a dad, which might as well have been evidence that he's going to die. I mean, that honestly might as well just stamped dead man on his forehead because that's just obviously where this is going, and that's exactly where it goes. So yeah, you have Seagal as Bobby Samuels. He's the head of this IDTF and IDGAF, and you have like this guy named Dimitri, who's the boss, the gangster guy I was talking about, who is employing this asshole who's going around raping and killing people, whose name is Costell. You have this other IDTF agent named Steve and this other guy named Ronnie. You have this dude who I guess was an informant for Bobby, this Eurotrash biker douchebag guy who winds up getting killed. You got this guy named Dada who is the right hand man of Costell, who's the one that killed Dimitri's wife. Like the characters are just as bland and as dull as the rest of the movie is for the most part. And there's just so many scenes in this film that are just filler, just shots of random people on the street, shots of gangsters counting money, multiple shots of women dancing in a nightclub, who are for some reason swallowing fire. I guess because it's called Born to Raise Hell, so you got to have something related to that title in the film. You've got lines of dialogue that are just silly and ridiculous, like Dimitri talking to Costell earlier, and he's like, "Midgets are short. Money should never be short," or whatever the fuck it is. It's like, what the hell do you have against little people, Seagal? You wrote that line. What? What's your problem? What's your beef with little people? So, yeah, some I don't really know what else to say about this fucking script. There's nothing really to this script. There's barely enough plot here for an hour of running time, let alone an hour and a half. I thought the movie was over an hour in, but no, it still was going because this script is so shit. So I guess originally there was another director, I just found this out, named Keone Waxman, but he passed and then he directed Hunt to Kill with Steve Austin instead. And then Lauro Chartrand, who was directing the second unit, was then given the opportunity to direct this movie based on a script by Steven Seagal. I mean, there's even a bit at the end where Seagal meets up with Dimitri and beats him at chess with one move. And Dimitri tells him that he'd be a good Spetsnaz. And they essentially have a moment together, a bit of a bromance. And Dimitri's talking about, how awesome and badass and cool Seagal is. And that's a running theme throughout this script. Just so much ego throughout it. I mean, there's a line of dialogue where Seagal's talking to his partner at the IDTF, and he's like, and the guy's trying to tell Seagal something, and he's like, "What? Let me guess. You want to be like me? You want to be me?" And it's like, yeah, I do, but I also wanted to share with you some good news. I'm gonna be a dad. You're just like, who the fuck writes like this? It's like, oh, let me guess, you want to be like me? It's like, no, I don't want to be like you. I don't want to be like Steven Seagal, especially not right now. Who's overweight and has an ego the size of a fucking mountain, who's living in Russia somewhere, being a fucking tool. No, I don't want to be like you. No thanks. Also, I don't want to be like you because you're an asshole. Like, he's just continuously been known as someone who's incredibly difficult to work with on the set. He's an egomaniac. He's not the best person. And it doesn't seem like any of that has changed over the years. There's not an ounce of humility in his entire body. So, yeah, I definitely don't want to be like Seagal. But yeah, this script, it sucks. There's nothing to it. It's predictable. There's no surprises. There's nothing about it that is anything remotely close to unique or interesting. It's just a generic cop plot about Seagal and his team trying to find this particular guy, and that's it. And speaking of Seagal, might as well talk about the cast. I mean, it's headed by Steven Seagal as Bobby Samuels. For some reason, Seagal has yet again this Cajun accent that comes and goes. You're not from Louisiana, you fucking fat ass. Why the hell do you keep doing this? What, are you such a big fan of Popeye's chicken that now you each time you have a box of Popeye's chicken, you adopt a Louisiana accent each time you chow down a drumstick? Like, I don't understand, or a chicken breast. I don't understand why this happens so much. This Cajun accent that comes and goes. He once again has pretty much two expressions throughout the entire movie: serious, and also the same expression he uses when he's trying to be intimidating, and then slightly amused. That's about it. Those are the two expressions you get from Steven Seagal in Born to Raise Taco Bell. Just so and at least he does a lot of his own stunts, except for a moment where his character jumps onto a car. But he does do the fight scenes. He looks somewhat adequate doing them. There are a couple moments where he's roughing some folks up with his fists that are kind of fun. But they're nothing compared to his heyday. They're nothing compared to his prime, and they're still relatively forgettable. And yeah, his performance, it's the typical pile of alligator ass that you're used to when it comes to Seagal and his films from this particular era. But it could be worse. I mean, at least he is not dubbed by some other guy. So he's still utilizing his own voice here, even though it has this annoying accent that comes and goes. And there are times where it's kind of hard to understand what he's saying because it almost sounds like he's mumbling his lines. Oh, man. Like, what? 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 I can't hear you, Seagal. What the fuck? What the fuck did you just say? And you have this guy named Dan Badarau who plays Dimitri. I honestly thought this guy was kind of like a poor man's uh um Jorgen Crab. I think that's what his name is. I think that's the actor's name. Who was in The Punisher with Dolph Lundgren, who played the mafia boss, or a poor man's Terry Silver from Cobra Kai. He's got the ponytail, and he's this Russian mob boss, and there were some moments where his performance is kind of okay. except for the scenes when he's being a little too over the top and hamming it up. And I guess out of the two performances, and when it comes to the two bad guys or gangsters in this film, I would say he was definitely better than Darren Shahlavi, who played Costello. Like Darren Shahlavi, I remember him in Blood Moon with Gary Daniels. He played the killer in that, and he's a guy who can move. He knows martial arts, but he's a shitty actor, and that all that lesser acting talent was definitely on display here. I mean, he was bad enough that he actually made Steven Seagal sleepwalking through his scenes and his lines in this film look great in comparison. Uh, D. Neil Mark as Agent Steve wasn't really anything much to write home about. Neither was George Remes as Agent Ronnie, or the countless parade of what might as well be Romanian porn stars that are in the film that are just there to look sexy and shoot guns and not really provide anything other than sex appeal. And you have like Zoltan Butik, who plays Dada, and that performance was pretty lackluster as well. There isn't a single performance in this entire cast, other than maybe the guy who plays Dimitri, that is average. Everyone else is below average when it comes to their performances, or just absolute crap. Like the kind of reeking crap that you would find in the Taco Bell bathroom after the lunch rush. So, the film also features some cinematography by Eric J. Goldstein, and I I think the cinematographer was just as inept as the director here. Like, there's so many shots that once again use the wrong exposure. Just everything looks washed out or too dark, or it just does nothing to really make the film look like anything other than a really low budget, cheap ass short you would see on YouTube, or like I said, something you would find on Pornhub. And then you have the editing by Trevor Maroche. I absolutely fucking hated the way that this film was edited. This is some of the most annoying editing I think I've seen in a film in a long time. What the fuck was this shit? Was this film edited by a fucking crackhead? Why the hell did this film have so many quick cuts and freeze frames and weird ass zooms and moments where the sequence would freeze frame and then turn to like black and white and then go back to color? What the fuck was this? Like, none of these edits added anything to these scenes. These edits were egregious. They were excruciating to watch. They were so bad I shut the film off like 18 minutes in last night because I couldn't fucking stand it anymore because it was giving me a headache. And then I wound up finishing the film later. The film has moments where it doesn't have these edits, and it's actually kind of okay to watch. At least it's not as irritating. But when these edits come in, it's fucking hard to sit through because they're just so annoying and unnecessary. Why the fuck was this film edited like this? Shouldn't have hired the fucking crackhead on the side of the street to edit your movie, Seagal. So, yeah, bad editing. The music by Michael Nielsen is your average, everyday, generic bullshit that you hear in multiple direct-to-video action films with the guitar riff and the drums, and there's nothing special to it. And it's a film that's like 98 minutes, but it feels like 198 because there's no investment in the plot. There's no investment in these characters. There's no reason to give a shit about anything. Like I said, it's IDGAF. I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck about Bobby and his IDTF and castor oil and any of this other fucking shit. I don't give a fuck about any of it. I do not care. I'm just waiting for the film to be over. Like, and even the movie has like a weird edit at the end. Like, Bobby has his moment with Dimitri with the chess game, and gives Dimitri these tickets, and then you think the movie is over, but then for some reason it has a random ass shot of Seagal firing a gun from an earlier scene, and then it cuts to black. I'm like, what? Why was that there? There was no need for that sequence. Why was that cut into the film? Why was that at the end of the movie? It wasn't like it was a new bit of action. It wasn't like it had anything to do with anything. But then again, this is the same production that has moments where characters are speaking Russian or Romanian, and they have subtitles that pop up before they finish saying their line of dialogue. So, I mean, that's par for the course. That's par for the course when it comes to Born to Raise Taco Bell. $10 million? That's honestly how much this movie cost. Where did all that money go? Because this does not look like a $10 million production. I guess 9.5 million of it went to Steven Seagal and his fast food binges. But yeah, I really don't know what else to say about Born to Raise Taco Bell, except thanks for watching my rant, and until next time, I'll see you later. See ya. Put down the fucking steak quesadillas and the nachos and the burritos and the chalupas. Put them all down, Steven Seagal. Just stop it. Stop making shitty movies.